As humans, we are built to tell stories. We are born to tell stories, and we are built to keep telling them. We all have a deep need to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. But why is it so hard to own our narratives? Why then do we struggle with our own story? Why do we often get stuck in the middle of the story of our lives?
I am my story. You are your story. When we embrace our stories, we get a glimpse into the lives of others. We better understand ourselves and the world at large. Welcome to the Chronicles Pod, a curated podcast of extraordinary stories of remarkable people around the globe. From the world's famous to the most ordinary person, I believe there is no story too big or too small to be shared. Each episode is a story. I hope you find one that inspires, refreshes, entertains, educates, or encourages you in a beautiful way. I am Jokotolu, your host. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a world of extraordinary stories.
Hello and welcome to the Chronicles Pod. This is Jokotolu, and on today's episode, I will be talking about the importance of telling your story and why it is important to own it before you even start telling it. And yes, I will be joined by an amazing friend today. He has a lot of advice to share with us. I want to start by saying that every person has their own story and every person should have their stories told. But the question is, who tells your story? Yourself or someone else? Everywhere you go in life, or let me say that at several junctures in your life, people are going to ask you questions about yourself and about your experiences. And if you can't tell your own stories or have answers for them, they will probably ask someone else. And when someone else tells your story, they can't but provide stereotypes because they are not you, because they don't really know you. I was reading some words on a friend's WhatsApp status or story last Monday, and it was all about how the opinions, the belief, the point of view of others, or let me say the point of view other people have about you, can make you immune to what is true about yourself. And I think that is so profound because when someone talks about you, when someone makes projection of what they think your story is about, they are likely or most likely to talk about the image they have created for you and about you in their minds. So they can't do it justice. They can't do your story justice. There is a risk that their version would be inaccurate or it may not even be true. So if you're listening to this right now and you are thinking about your experiences, you are thinking about your stories, I want you to know that you are the one who knows exactly how to tell your story best. But you know what's more important? Owning your story. Before you can even tell your story, before you can share your story as a gift, you need to own it first. And what does owning mean? It means being vulnerable, to show who you are, who you really are. It's also about being honest with yourself and with others. Yes, you are the one who can tell your story, but before you start telling it, make sure you know what it is. Make sure you are being honest about it. The best stories are those that come from a place of honesty and self-awareness. They are not just written for pleasure. They are not told to please or entertain people. They are shared, they are told, they are written because we have something to say, because our story really does matter. and we want to share it with the world. And maybe then one day someone who heard it, who is inspired, who is encouraged by it, will come along and tell theirs too. And maybe, just maybe, make space for your experience in their heads and tell someone who you might never get a chance to reach about it and in the way you'd like your story to be told. And I'm sure it's going to hit home harder when someone tells your story the exact way you want it to be told than you not owning up to your story at all and just allow someone else to tell it for you. So don't be left out of the stories of your lives. Tell it yourself. And I mentioned that I would be joined by an amazing friend. Today's guest is JT. He is going to be sharing some common mistakes people make when telling their stories. Hi, JT. How are you doing today?
Hello, Ayo. It's lovely to be here. I'm well, thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here with me on the show. I am really grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Like I said, I'm glad to be here.
So I've got a super important question for you. I would like to ask you, what do you think are the common mistakes people make when telling their stories?
Thank you. It's a really interesting question, actually. And I believe it falls under 6 subheadings. So common mistakes people make when they're telling their story. I believe the first one is that they cut out the most interesting bits because either due to insecurity or due to repetition. And the reason I highlight these two is that sometimes you might feel insecure about a certain part of your story. It might feel like it makes you seem weak or it shows your vulnerability, and because of that, you cut it out. And what that does then is it reduces the connectivity of your story, because not everyone's Superman, if you understand what I mean. People relate more with the human side of people. Yeah. So, yes, by removing that, you might make the story boring to the other person, which was something you were trying to avoid or you were trying to protect yourself. You understand? And in the end, your story doesn't make the connection it was designed to.
I needed to hear that, JT. I think in the pursuit of our journeys in life, or let me say in the pursuit of telling our stories, there is really no need for us to be too self-critical about the stories of our lives. And I actually reckon that the reason why most people cut out parts of their stories may be because those parts of their stories are not exciting or seemed unimportant. But I think one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So that part that seems insignificant can go a long way to be an incredible gift to another person. So thank you for that.
I agree. And also it's telling your stories about connecting. And one of the things, when you allow some of your vulnerabilities or some of those parts that you think are more boring to show, it might allow you to actually connect with someone on a deeper level. The other side, like I was saying, is repetition, in the sense that a story was so important to you that you've told it like 1,000 times. And now you feel like, I need to cut out X, Y, and Z just so I can get through the story. And you're not valuing the fact that why was that story so important to me in the first place? And what value was he actually delivering to the listener? So yeah, I think we should really value our stories. And even if we said a story, a lot of times, the fact that we're still saying it and it's still coming up in conversations because it has value.
Because it does matter, and we should not deprive our stories of that dignity.
Exactly. So the second point I'll bring up, it's more about know your audience. Mistake is that people, like I said, they arbitrarily cut things out for insecurity or for, repetition, but you can actually cut it out to help the story connect more with the person that you're discussing with. So for example, if you're in a dinner setting, then you might want to tailor the conversation if it's more formal. Whereas like if you're in a corner shop or shopping with a friend, then the story can be a little bit longer. You can really enjoy each other's company. You understand what I mean? So tailor the story so it connects with the person that's listening. And the other thing I would append to that is consider the character of the person you're telling the story to, in the sense that if you are saying a story to someone that generally is uninterested or you just met them, then you will not get the feedback you're expecting. And you shouldn't then be disappointed when you don't get the feedback you wanted.
Absolutely spot on. I think our stories are most beneficial when we tell it to the right people. When we open up to an audience who can relate, who can reflect on the story, who can have faith in the current state of our ongoing story, or the current state of the ongoing stories of our lives. And then they are also interested to know what happens next. So if someone is obviously not interested in your story, there is no point telling it to them, because they would generally not be interested or concerned about how it's unfolding or how you want it to unfold at the end of the day. So I really like that.
And another reason I highlight it is because in our modern times, we don't have the same friendship groups that we had in the past. So, for example, you had acquaintances, you had close friends, you had family friends, you had colleagues. They were all separate groups, and they didn't necessarily have to interact and know everything about you all the time. Whereas with social media, that's the case. So what it seems is like now we feel like, oh, well, all our information is out there. So if a random stranger comes to us, we're like, yeah, let me tell you all my life story, all my vulnerabilities. And if that person turns around and uses it against you, you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened. So yeah, I think we really need to take that one on board for our mental health, but also just for general progress of our stories and the people around us. Because at the end of the day, you're the authority on your story. And if you let your story just go out there anyhow, you're going to have to do a lot of corrections. All right. Well, I'd like to move on to the third point. The third point that third mistake that people make when they're telling their story is that they look for validation or external solutions rather than solving it and then relaying the story. Do you understand? And the reason I say this is because if you're looking for external validation, then you tell them a story maybe of how you got a promotion. And what the other person hears is like, okay, you got a promotion, you're X, Y, Z. I want to use you as a poster child of the kind of people I can network with. They don't really care about who you are, like the real struggle for you to get there. They're just looking, okay, how can I use you to advance myself? It could also be on the flip side.
With Profi, I think that's so relatable. Like, people are not interested in your story, but then they go on to say, oh, I know this person and this person is all about this, without really deeply connecting to you in any way.
Exactly. So my suggestion would be that tell your story, tell it with confidence, but the stories you are sharing, you should share it at a time where you've already talked with closer friends or you've already talked to a professional, especially if it's a vulnerability component. But if it's just your promotion or something that is more I guess good, then what I'll do is also just append a conclusion or a recommendation at the end so that you give a pointer to the person listening to the story of what you're comfortable then taking away from the story. So in the sense that, like, okay, yes, we talk about promotion, and I'm like, okay, the thing I learned is that not only do I need to work hard, right? And not only do I have to network, I have to do it in a consistent and humble way. If you say that, then the other person kind of gets the vibe that, okay, yeah, it's cool, you go where you are, but you're more disciplined. So if I start trying to drag you up and down to show what you are, probably not going to. So they won't disturb you. It's just for your peace of mind, Sha. Let me know what you think. We'll find out, and the listeners. For time, I'll go to the fourth one. The fourth mistake people make is that they are very dogmatic about the way they believe their memory accounts everything. They believe their memory is constantly right all the time. And that's not the case. In reality, what happens with our memories, when we tell our stories, right, it reinforces our memory. So when we cut out certain sections, our memory augments and kind of acts like those sections we cut out never happened. So an example will be a son and a father talking about their primary school graduation, and the son started accusing the dad of not being there. And the mom literally just brought out a video recording and was like, isn't that my husband? And the son didn't want to change his opinion. And if you look at it logically, there is no way the mother could have augmented that video in such a short period of time. So we should be ready to augment our memory, update it. But at the same time, if we hear a story about ourselves that doesn't align with what we know is true in our story, there's no evidence to back up what the other person is saying, then there's no reason for you to change your story. You shouldn't be a people pleaser like, well, if this person said it, so let me just change the story. At least we'll make everyone happy. Your story will get very messy and you will lose your identity in the story.
I really love that point. I think one of the unintended consequence of not updating our story is labels. And I think it's not just about ourselves, it's also about others. If we don't update our perspective about anything or any place or any person or even our stories, we can be stuck a single story of ourselves or a single story of them and then rob them of dignity. Rob the story of dignity. So it is important for us to update our story. Thank you for that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm happy to share. My last point would be a lack of humility in our stories. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't be proud of the things we've done in life. We definitely should. We should use it to encourage ourselves, to spur ourselves forward. But we shouldn't use it as a motivation to showcase and boast or to be audacious about it 24/7. So an example I always give is you own a store where you sell shoes, leather shoes that you've either handcrafted or you've got a design. And a customer comes in and they make a remark such as, oh, these shoes are not bad. And you just come up like, sorry, not bad. Like, you start you start hyping yourself. So you start hyping yourself and you talk about, I have like 5, 6, 7 stores. They're all making this amount of revenue. If these shoes were just not bad, do you think I will make it this far? That would probably repulse the person hearing the story.
That's some sort of over-objectification, right?
Yeah, it's just, yeah. it's too, actually, it might pertain to insecurity, or rather, your head is just too big, Sha. I don't know what other way to put it. But what I would say is humility always brings people closer. So if your response was that, well, if you think those shoes are not bad, I've got some that will blow your mind. It's from a different, perspective. You're not really pushing yourself too high, but at least you're bringing the bar a little higher and bringing the intrigue. I'm a salesman, so I'm allowed to say that. But you could also go with something a little less, out of the way. You could say, oh, I've got some better ones that you might like. I'm giving you 2 options there. But anyway, so the customer comes, they have a look, and then they might now be, enticed enough to ask you, what's your story? How did you start? And before you know it, now you're sharing your story. Your story is making a connection. It's edifying both of you, because the other person is learning from you and you're getting the opportunity, because you get dopamine when you share your story, but you also get an opportunity to reaffirm your identity, reaffirm your history. So it's doing wonders for both of you. And with that connection, that person might decide, oh, have you ever thought about expanding? They don't know you have other stores, but they're like, have you ever thought about expanding? And next thing you know, you might have an investor, or you might have a friend for life. I'm not saying you should share your story for investors, but what I'm saying is that when you share your story with humility, you're more likely to have deep, lasting connections.
Yes, I totally love this point. Thank you so much, JT, for sharing this highlighted mistake we often make when telling our stories. I really, really enjoyed.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
I guess that's it, folks. You have just listened to JT, and he has just shared some of the common mistakes people make when telling their stories. Before I go, I would just like to remind you that you and I have a story to tell, whether we are teachers or waiters or missionaries or CEOs or business owners or artists, you name it. Our stories have a vital role in a much larger epic story, a story that's bigger than us. And for us to be remembered, we have to take note, we have to be intentional about how we tell our stories. So as you go on this day, as you go on this week, I want you to ask yourself these questions. How do I want to be remembered? How do I want my story to be told? How do I want my story to unfold? And just breathe in, breathe out, and decide who lives, who dies, who tells your story. And I want to specially thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And if you gained some insights, yes, I want to hear from you. What's your biggest takeaway from this episode? Let me know in the comment section on IG. And in the meantime, if you haven't followed the Chronicles Pod on Instagram, the handle is the Chronicles Pod with an underscore. Please follow the Chronicles Pod on Instagram. And yes, tell someone about this podcast. Thank you so much once again for listening. Your story is unique. No one can tell it for you. So go on, tell your story. Keep telling your story. I'll see you next time. I love you. Bye.